Welcome to SCO's Media YouTube video. The video you are about to experience can be extremely disturbing, and viewer discretion is advised.
War is loud. War is bright. War is confusing. War is not a game. It is chaos. It is danger. This is the hard truth. You stand in a place that was utterly calm just a single fleeting moment ago. The air still and quiet, perhaps filled with the mundane sounds of distant life or the quiet hum of an engine. Then, in an instant that cleaves time into a before and an after, the entire world changes. A shell explodes nearby, not with a cinematic boom, but with a visceral gut-punching concussion that rips the air apart. The ground beneath your feet heaves as if it were liquid, throwing you off balance and stealing your sense of stability in the most fundamental way. Your ears are not just ringing. They are filled with a high-pitched, painful scream that blots out all other sound, a physical manifestation of the auditory violence you have just endured. Smoke, thick and acrid, billows into the air, instantly obscuring your vision and filling your lungs with the gritty taste of pulverized earth and cordite. You smell dust, the sharp tug of superheated metal, blood. Bullets make a sharp, snapping sound as they pass by your head. Voices shout, but they are distorted, desperate, and lost in the cacophony. Section 2. The overload of sensation. When the world explodes. The human mind is not designed for the sensory overload of a firefight. It is an environment of extremes, a place where every one of your senses is assaulted simultaneously and without mercy. The noise is more than just loud. It is a physical force, the crack of a rifle, the thumping detonation of a grenade, the deafening roar of a machine gun, the earth-shattering boom of an improvised explosive device, all combine into a wall of sound. This acoustic violence does more than just damage your hearing. It disorients you, making it impossible to communicate clearly or even to think in coherent sentences. You are forced to rely on hand signals, on shouts that are swallowed by the din, and on reading the body language of the people around you. The smells of battle are equally potent and unforgettable, etching themselves into your memory. The sharp chemical smell of explosives, a scent like burnt sulfur and ammonia. The smell of hot metal from gun barrels and shell casings. The dust from shattered concrete. The scent of dry earth thrown into the air. The smell of burning fuel or plastic. And the smell of blood. Your sense of touch is also overwhelmed. The ground vibrates constantly with the force of explosions and the rumble of heavy vehicles. The air itself feels charged, thick with pressure waves that you can feel on your skin, even from distant impacts. The recoil of your own weapon is a violent shove against your shoulder. If you are near an explosion, the blast wave is a physical blow. The heat from fires and explosions can be intense, searing your face and making the air difficult to inhale. Fear is the final, all-encompassing sensation. It is not a distant anxiety, but a physical presence. It manifests as a cold knot in your stomach, a racing heart that hammers against your ribs, and a shallow, rapid breath that you can't seem to control. It sharpens some senses while dulling others, creating a state of hyper-awareness that is utterly exhausting. This is not the fear of a horror movie. It is the primal biological certainty that your life is in immediate and mortal danger. This sensory and emotional overload is what defines the experience of combat, reducing a complex world to a few simple, brutal inputs: noise, light, smell, and the overwhelming possibility of death. Section 3. Time-warped and minds tested. The psychology of combat. In the throes of combat, time itself becomes a casualty, stretching and compressing in unpredictable ways. Your mind, flooded with adrenaline and focused intensely on survival, perceives the world differently. A firefight that lasts only a few minutes can feel like an eternity, each second drawn out into a slow-motion sequence of events. You might recall with perfect clarity the trajectory of a tracer round the expression on a comrade's face, the way dust motes danced in a sliver of light. Conversely, hours of waiting or monotonous patrolling can blur into a single, indistinct memory, lost to the fatigue and tension that are constant companions. This distortion of time, known as tachypsychia, is a common response to extreme stress, making a reliable narrative of events difficult to reconstruct later. This temporal distortion is compounded by profound sleep deprivation. In a combat zone, sleep is a precious and scarce commodity, often interrupted by guard duty, incoming fire, or the simple inability to shut down a hyper-alert mind. Going for days with little to no restorative rest becomes the norm, but the cost is high. Fatigue degrades cognitive function, slowing reaction times and impairing judgment. A soldier who has not slept properly for 72 hours can exhibit the same level of cognitive impairment as someone who is legally intoxicated. They may miss subtle signs of danger, misinterpret a situation, or make a poor decision under pressure. Mistakes that can have fatal consequences for themselves and their unit. The confusion of close-quarters fighting represents one of the most psychologically taxing aspects of war. When the distance between combatants shrinks to mere yards, the conflict becomes intensely personal and terrifyingly ambiguous. In the dim light of a building, through the thick smoke of a grenade, or in the frantic chaos of a room-to-room search, the task of distinguishing friend from foe becomes a split-second life-or-death calculation. The enemy may not be in uniform. They may appear to be an unarmed civilian one moment and a threat the next. This uncertainty creates a terrible burden, as a moment's hesitation can get you killed, while a hasty action can lead to a tragic mistake. These moments of intense confusion and moral ambiguity leave deep and lasting scars. The need to make irreversible decisions in a fraction of a second, with incomplete information and under extreme duress, is a weight that many carry for the rest of their lives. The chaos of the battlefield is not just external, it is internal. A battle fought within the mind against fear, exhaustion, and the overwhelming confusion of a world where the normal rules of human interaction have been violently suspended. Surviving the physical fight is only one part of the challenge. Surviving the psychological toll is another longer battle that continues long after the guns fall silent. Section 4. The anatomy of injury. Wounds of modern warfare. In the stark calculus of modern warfare, a soldier is statistically more likely to be wounded than killed outright. This reality is a testament to two parallel developments: the effectiveness of modern personal protective equipment, body armor, helmets, and the horrifying efficiency of contemporary weapons. While armor can stop or slow shrapnel and some rifle rounds, saving lives, weapons still cause devastating injuries to exposed parts of the body. Explosives have become a signature weapon of many conflicts, particularly improvised explosive devices. They cause some of the most grievous wounds and change battlefield trauma. When an explosive detonates, it unleashes a multifaceted assault on the body. Primary blast injury is from the pressure wave. It can pass through the body and damage air-filled organs, lungs, bowels. Secondary injury is from shrapnel, bomb casing fragments, rocks, nails, other debris. Those fragments cut, pierce, and tear flesh and bone. Tertiary injury is the blast wind throwing a person through the air, colliding with walls, vehicles, the ground. Result: blunt force trauma, broken bones, severe head injuries. Gunshot wounds remain a constant threat. Damage is often far worse than visible entry and exit points. A high-velocity rifle round doesn't punch a clean hole. It creates a massive temporary cavity. That cavity stretches and tears tissues, nerves, blood vessels. Bullets can tumble, fragment, ricochet off bone, making multiple wound tracks and catastrophic internal damage. Beyond explosions and bullets, severe burns are common. Flash fires, burning fuel, contact with superheated materials. Burns are extremely painful and carry a high infection risk. Invisible injuries, traumatic brain injury, musculoskeletal damage. A shock wave can shake the brain inside the skull, causing concussion or more severe brain damage. Carrying over 100 pounds of gear day after day leads to chronic injuries of the back, knees, ankles. These musculoskeletal injuries can end careers and cause lifelong pain and disability. Section 5. The Golden Hour. Racing against time. When a soldier is wounded in battle, a clock starts ticking. This critical period, often referred to by trauma specialists as the golden hour, is the window of time in which prompt medical intervention can mean the difference between life and death. While the term suggests 60 minutes, the principle is more urgent. The faster a critically injured person receives advanced care, the higher their chance of survival. On the battlefield, the majority of preventable deaths occur within the first few minutes of injury, long before a surgeon is ever seen. The single greatest cause of these rapid deaths is massive hemorrhage, uncontrolled bleeding from a major artery or vein in a limb, from the torso, or at a junction like the groin or armpit. To combat this immediate threat, modern military training heavily emphasizes tactical combat casualty care, or TCCC. This is not complex medicine. It is a set of simple, life-saving steps that can be performed by any soldier under fire. The first and most important principle of TCCC is to gain fire superiority. You cannot effectively treat a casualty while you are being shot at. Once it is relatively safe, the immediate priority is to stop massive bleeding. Soldiers are equipped with and trained to rapidly apply tourniquets to severely bleeding limbs. For wounds where a tourniquet cannot be used, they are taught to pack the wound with hemostatic gauze and then apply direct pressure. After bleeding is controlled, the next steps focus on the airway and breathing, the A and B of emergency care. A soldier checks to ensure the wounded person's airway is not blocked by blood or other matter. They also look for penetrating chest wounds, which can cause a lung to collapse. A special seal is applied to these wounds to prevent air from being sucked into the chest cavity, and in some cases, a trained medic may need to insert a large needle into the chest to release trapped air, a procedure called a needle decompression. Throughout this process, they also focus on preventing hypothermia, as blood loss causes the body to cool rapidly, which in turn prevents blood from clotting effectively. Even in a hot desert, a casualty is quickly covered with a warming blanket. These initial steps are a bridge. They are designed to keep a person alive long enough to reach the next level of care. Every soldier carries an individual first aid kit containing the essential tools for this task: tourniquets, pressure dressings, chest seals, gauze. The training is relentless and repetitive, drilling these actions into muscle memory so that they can be performed almost automatically in the chaos and terror of a firefight. It is a stark recognition that the first responder on the battlefield is not a doctor, but the soldier standing next to the one who has just been hit. Their quick, decisive actions in those first few minutes are often the most important medical care the wounded will ever receive. Section 6. The Chain of Survival. Medevac and the Field Hospital. Once initial first aid is administered under fire, the next link in the chain of survival is getting the wounded to a place where surgeons can work. This critical task is most often accomplished by medical evacuation helicopters. These aircraft and their crews are a lifeline, flying into some of the most dangerous situations imaginable to retrieve casualties. The call for a medevac is one of the most urgent radio transmissions on the battlefield, initiating a high-stakes race against time. The pilots must navigate difficult terrain, often at night and in poor weather, to reach a landing zone that may not be fully secure. The approach and landing are moments of extreme vulnerability for the helicopter, its crew, and the soldiers on the ground providing security. The helicopter itself is a miniature emergency room in the sky. Inside, highly trained flight medics work in a cramped, loud, and vibrating space to continue life-saving care. They can administer intravenous fluids, provide pain medication, monitor vital signs, and manage the patient's airway during the flight. Their job is to keep the patient stable on the journey from the point of injury to the hospital. Every second of the flight is critical, and the medics work with intense focus, often while the helicopter performs evasive maneuvers to avoid enemy fire. The sound of an approaching medevac helicopter is one of the most profound sounds of hope on the battlefield, a symbol that help is on the way. The destination for the medevac is typically a field hospital, a facility known in the military as a combat support hospital or a forward surgical team. These are not sprawling, permanent buildings, but modular, mobile medical centers that can be set up close to the front lines. Despite their temporary nature, they are remarkably sophisticated, containing everything needed for damage control surgery. Operating rooms, sterilization equipment, anesthesia machines, a blood bank, and an intensive care unit. Here, a team of trauma surgeons, nurses, and technicians takes over, ready to perform life-saving procedures the moment the patient arrives. The primary goal of surgery in a field hospital is damage control. Surgeons do not attempt to perform complex reconstructive procedures. Instead, they focus on the immediate threats to life. They work quickly to stop internal bleeding, remove shrapnel, relieve pressure on the brain, and stabilize major fractures. Their objective is to get the patient stable enough to survive a longer flight to a more advanced hospital in a different country, like Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany. These surgical teams work under immense pressure, often dealing with multiple critically injured patients at once, making rapid decisions that will determine who lives and who dies. Their skill and speed in these austere environments save lives that would have been lost in any previous war. Section 7. The margin of error. Fatal mistakes and lasting truths. In the unforgiving environment of combat, danger is immediate. The margin for error is vanishingly small. Many deaths are the result of simple, avoidable mistakes. Complacency is the most insidious killer. Routine patrols with no contact breed relaxation. Reenactment. A moment of hesitation, eyes drifting. A soldier fails to scan his sector. A driver takes a familiar route without considering new threats. A unit neglects an equipment check. Erosion of discipline creates vulnerabilities. A determined enemy will exploit them. Believing a place is safe is a dangerous assumption. Danger can materialize in an instant. Poor preparation and bad assumptions are equally fatal. A weapon jams because it wasn't cleaned. A radio has dead batteries. A vehicle breaks down from neglected maintenance. Underestimating the enemy is another classic error. Assuming they are unsophisticated or predictable, units can be drawn into well-planned ambushes or fall victim to cleverly concealed traps. Tactical mistakes in a firefight carry a high price. Misidentifying a target. Tragic friendly fire. A poorly executed withdrawal becomes a rout. Even after shooting stops, mistakes in care can be lethal. TCC steps are drilled for a reason: forgetting to apply a tourniquet quickly enough, applying it incorrectly, bleeding out from an otherwise survivable wound, failing to recognize a collapsed lung, neglecting to keep a casualty warm. These are failures of basic procedures under stress. Adherence to practiced rules holds the line. War is a brutal teacher. Its lessons are written in blood, systems, training, discipline. When they fail, the human cost is profound. War is not an abstract idea. Noise, fear, pain, bodies broken, minds scarred. Respect is owed to those who endure, to the wounded, to the medics and those who risk everything to save them. The truth of war is its human cost. Never forget. Don't forget to like and subscribe to SCO's Media's YouTube channel for more informative videos.